this isn't a big thing, just a very subtle thing. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with psychology. I make this hand a little bit unnatural to draw more focus there. That's all. I take the Sharpie back and I say watch. I sometimes when I get it in the fingertips, I work it out differently every time. You get the sense of a vanish, and then I just tap the cap. I give a sense that, bam, I've done the magic there. Now, I let that sink in for about 1, maybe 2 beats. You want to keep this moving. You don't want to go blow through it, but you don't want to go real slow either. So you go, bam, say, now look, it disappeared, but it didn't go far. Lean in, listen. And I'm telling them to be quiet there, subtly. Listen, and I point here, which means they're going to hear it there. And you go. Now, all it's doing is tapping against the Sharpie in the bottom of your hand. That's all it is. But again, when people put their ear up to it, and even right now, the sound travels up the pen cap, and they will actually swear they heard something right there. So that's a very, very deceptive seller, and it sells that the dime can fit in there, which makes the end more impossible. And it also sells that the fact that the dime has gone through and is somehow wedged in there, tapping, and that your hands are empty. So you do that. Now I say, cup your hands out. Again, this is in the same position. I say, cup your hands, perfectly natural. Everyone sees the hands are empty. And plus, even the people here who might see the coin won't be looking here. They'll be looking at the other person holding their hands out. You want them to cup their hands and not hold out flat, because if the coin is thrown and they don't know what's coming, it can kind of fall off, and you don't want that. You want it to, boom, be as secure as possible. So that's when I say, okay, so cup your hands out, because inside you just do 1, 2, kind of like the whole bat of the. So because inside I shake down and I get nothing. I act as if the dime is somehow still wedged up in here. And I'm pretty much making a mistake, which again, you can get into the psychology of this. I'm not going to. You make a mistake, you wouldn't want to do that on purpose. You wouldn't want to make a mistake on purpose to lay people, but you do it to sell the idea. You go, because inside, as if I was going to say, inside the cap is the dime. But instead I go inside, and then I tap and blow in there, is the dime. Now that's one other thing. I don't just shake down. Do not do just a shakedown. Do an up down. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but you can actually hear the cap hitting against here, which gives a sense that it's being snapped out as it's falling out, snapping out of that wedge, it being wedged up in the cap. So that really sells it. Now you're not going to get great sound every single time. I think if you were to really do this, you'd get a different sound, so that's fine. You do that, say, is the dime. And I don't step back. That's important. You don't want them to think you switched out a pen that it would not fit in. I've had a layperson say that to me. And again, all these points have come from doing this hundreds of times. I say, because inside the cap, I put this here, is the dime. I keep all of this in frame. And now they may start to react at that point, but then I say, now you see why I needed a dime. I stop them from reacting. I'm basically, if you think of their reaction like a hose, I'm pretty much bending the hose in half, building up all this pressure, rather than it just coming out the front. You bend it in half, build the tension even more, and then you release, and it comes out even with more force. So that's another psychological tip on this. I say, now you see why I needed a dime. I'm stopping them from reacting because a quarter or a nickel, and you shut up. Never say, because a quarter or a nickel wouldn't fit in the cap, right? Never say that. Go, because a quarter or a nickel, and that little motion prompts them to say, wouldn't fit. So you're making it seem as if they're coming up with an idea that, oh yeah, well, of course a quarter wouldn't fit in there. Which again is using the original coin and pen cap psychology I was talking about before. I say, because a quarter or a nickel, they say wouldn't fit. So you know what the incredible thing is? I bring this right up to my face. I say, neither does the dime.
This and that. I'm not going to waste a lot of your time explaining this. Basically, it's 8-card brainwave with blank cards that I wrote that one, this one, 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 this one, that one. Basically, it's pretty straightforward. I like to use a little pattern of, in a moment, we're going to do a little intuition test. I'm actually going to force a card on you. Don't be afraid to say this to a layman. They don't know what's going on. They really think you're going to force a card on them. They don't know what a card force is. Don't be afraid to use that term. So I say, in a moment, I know which card you're going to touch. Now, they haven't seen this yet, obviously. So basically, I either I spread them on the ground, or you can do like the traditional way, go one through one. So I spread them, and then they pick a card. They touch the back of any card, and I leave it on the table. And then you cut the deck. So basically, the card they picked was on top. And all you got to do is just kind of glimpse at the bottom card. It says this one. So I know that one is a that one. That makes sense? So here's a little subtlety we came up with last night, because I came up with this a couple days ago. If they pick a this one card, you will hand it to them in their hand face down. So when you ask, which card did you pick? They say, this one. If they picked a that one card, you leave it on the table. And then you say, so which card did you pick? And they'll go, that one. If by some chance they say this one, you pick that one, right? You pick that one, so you're kind of redirecting them verbally. So, and then you just do the standard 8-card brainwave count. You say you could have picked. So this is a that one. So you pick that one. So you could have picked this one or this one. You could have picked this one or this one. You definitely could have picked this one and this one, and you could have picked this one. But if all the cards you picked, you chose to pick that one. Very, very simple little subtlety on the 8-card brainwave. I love it. It's a little wordplay. It really, really fits my style. You guys should definitely try it. It's a really cool little trick.
I've been doing this one for a while. It's really just a double lift or a top change. It's really just window dressing for that. But the goal was to, I sort of thought, well, it'd be great to have a card change, and the impression is that you haven't got near the deck in quite a while. That would be wonderful. So this is one of those ones that's really all about presentation, for sure. All too often, magicians forget that presentation, or patter, as it's sometimes dismissively called, patter is one of the best methods to a trick. Patter can do more for the effect than any amount of finger flinging you'll ever do can. Okay, keep that in mind. I'm still trying to catch my breath from that little stunt there. Okay, here we go. I start off by saying the key line, opening line. I'm going to show you something that I've only tried once before, and the last time I tried it, I screwed up. Okay? I'm going to try something. I probably should use maybe just half the deck, but let's try the full deck, see if I can do this. Okay, so what? I've only tried this once before. I screwed it up. Theater, dramatic comes up. Drama, the dramatics are a lot more powerful. And you set them up with the idea that maybe you should have used fewer cards, because you're going to come back to that. And it's important that you establish that first. Boom. We'll try something here. Going to give the cards a bit of a mix-up. Deliberately do an overhand shuffle, because you'll see, well, again, I'll show you why. An overhand shuffle. You've done the card shuffle of cuff. You turn to someone on your right. You say, go ahead, go ahead, pick a card, any card. And they pick a card. They look at the card. While they're looking at the card, you square up the pack. I'm going to. You need to control the card to the top of the deck. I prefer doing classic pass here. In real performance with real people, when my energy is running, I have a habit. I'm going to admit this. I have a habit of classic passing the selection to the top of the deck, and then giving a false cut to the pack, which is asinine. Why don't you just double cut control from the beginning? Why? But it's just something I do. I can't help myself. Whatever you want, whatever you do, the control to the top of the deck, we'll say in this instance. Then you turn to the person and say, so he's got a card in mind. He's thinking of a card. Do you have any idea? No? Okay. Go ahead. I want you to take a card out. They take a card out. But don't look at it. You'll see this is all structured so I can get to the end and have the most breathing room possible. Take one out. Hold it out like that between finger and thumb, and now let's do the drum roll. And either myself or someone on the table, we do the drum roll, and don't ask the person to name their card. That'll ruin everything. You drum roll, and turn it over. And he turns it over. It's, of course, not their card. Sorry, I don't want to confuse you at home. We got mates going on here. Let's say they got a king of spades. Turn over, and is that your card? It isn't. You did fail. You were afraid you're going to fail. You did fail. And now, I do the top change. I take it from the guy, say, king of spades. Are you sure that wasn't the king of spades? And they say no. And I've done the top change there. I've got no fancy work on the top change for you.
I just flick it, gesture with it, come together, and then come away like that, okay? King of spades, you should, that wasn't your card. The left hand does most of the movement, the right hand sort of stationary, okay? You can do a double lift, you could do whatever, but here, let's assume we do a top change. King of spades, you're sure that wasn't your card? I knew I should use fewer cards. Look at this, taking heat off this, I knew I should use fewer cards. Hey, if I just stuck with the king of spades, just one card. So now it's about extending this moment. If I just use one card, I mean, that way I could have done the overhand. Now, this is why I do the overhand shuffle, because trying to mime a two-part shuffle or a butterfly shuffle with one card is not going to work. Okay, so boom. That way I could have shuffled the cards, no matter how much I shuffled them, I wouldn't know what was the top card. And you don't say, well, I would have known what the top card was, king of spades, because that doesn't sell it as well as saying, I would have known what the top card was, king of spades. Now, you're not pretending you needed to look at it to know the king of spades, but you're acting out what it would have been like. But the idea is each time you do this, you're selling it, you're deepening their certainty that it's still the king of spades. Boom, 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 boom. I would have known it was king of spades. Heck, no matter how much I shuffled, I would have known the bottom card. King of spades. I kind of lower them, king of spades. That way, when I spread out the card and say, go ahead, pick a card, any card, and this can get lashed from lay people. Go ahead, pick a card, any card. You don't let them take it. They might reach for it, and then you pluck it. You say, you would have taken king of spades. And I could have shuffled the cards, gone over to him and said, go ahead, he's thinking of a card, go ahead, take the card. Take it out, but don't turn it over. And now, it's about subtly, silently urging them to take it. You would have taken it out, go ahead. Ideally, you don't want to say go ahead. Go ahead, take it out. And this is why I didn't have them turn it over me. Go ahead. So you would have held on to it. I would say, let's do the drum roll. And do all this casually, like you're reenacting. You're not drum roll, boom. And then when you would have turned it over, it would have been the right card, right? What was your card? They say 7 of hearts. And you go, and you just look. Don't ask them to turn over. They will. And when they do, they'll soil themselves.
All right, you may notice that stuck to my forehead is a film canister. And now there's probably a big red ring right there, like a bullseye. And you'll know this lid here. This is like a match made in heaven. You might remember an old, I think it was like Adams or one of those, plastic magic companies that, not that I'm belittling those because that's where I got my start. They had a trick though, it was a square container where you could wedge a coin up in there and the lid. This is like a match made in heaven. You can take a peso, jam it up into the lid here, and that will not come out until you can even put the lid on it very securely. Don't drop it because it kind of gives it away with that little extra weight there, okay? But it seems empty. You shake it, and then anytime you want, you just press, and the coin releases, okay? Now, you saw the presentation. I mean, that's pretty much the effect. The question is, how do I get it there? One little thing, too, that might be interesting to note, you could use this as a finale for a coins across. Carry your 4 coins in here, or your 3, however many you use, or your 1, or your 12 coins across routine, whatever. Keep them all in your film canister, dump them out, use whatever pattern you want, but on the final one, you can make it end up in the canister. Anyway, we're not doing that. We're going to do 1. You can do it with a signed coin. I tell the stupid story about being on the border of Mexico and America, or Canadian-Mexican border, whatever. So, sorry. So I have them place the coin in my hand, okay? I close it up, and I'm going to just, if they place it properly, sometimes you don't have to do any work. You want to get it into a little heel clip here, okay? As you turn it over, though. You don't want them to see that, of course. But they think it's in your palm. It's actually turned over right there. As I gesture to them and say, hold on to my wrist. Now, you noticed in the performance yesterday, they all attacked my wrist and were holding on to it. Doesn't quite get that exciting in a real performance. These were magicians, of course, except for Jay Sankey, but the other guys were. But anyway, you sorry, Jay. As you gesture to your wrist, these 2 fingers right here are going to, I'm like giving you the finger twice, kind of. These 2 fingers are going to pinch that coin like so, all right? So I'm going to point here. These guys are going to come up, grab it, steal it. Very, very quick but subtle, okay? So it's, I want you to grab my wrist right here, and I roll, steal,